Hello everybody, welcome in the feedback video of week 6. This is my work environment. In this week's feedback video we will discuss the ideal maps you have created and not so much the analysis you have made. Have fun watching our video and thank you for your contributions.
In teaching our students, the first thing that we say about map making is that there are different kinds of maps for different situations, but that there are some basic rules that we always have to observe. And when you look for an ideal map, first thing that you need to check is scale level. Are you looking at the appropriate scale level? If we take, for instance, this map, a small village in the neighborhood in the vicinity of Delft, if we only had this map with this scale level, we could not but conclude that this is a small village in a very green environment, a pastoral environment. But this is not correct, because if we look 2 scale levels up, we see that this village is actually situated in one of the most densely populated areas in the Netherlands. So depending on the scale level that you look at, you can draw completely different conclusions as to the nature of your context, of your location. Another thing is that there are different levels of abstraction to maps. Of course, a photograph has a different level of abstraction, shows a different level of detail than, for instance, a DWG file like this one. Again, depending on what we want to know, we have to know if we're looking at the right level of abstraction. And another thing is that looking at maps, we always have to check whether we are looking at the right period in time. Usually a map is not up to date by default. And that means that we have to update our own maps, but also that if we want to understand a situation, we need to look at the development and we need to look at different time periods. So an ideal map, we say, consists of different scale levels, different levels of abstraction, and different time periods. That would be an ideal map. Now let's see what you have come up with. This contribution is by Karolina Kopečka. And what we like about her contribution is what she says about the ideal map. And she says, well, if you have an ideal map, of course, a 3D map is nice, but when we look at our screen, a 3D map we will usually always look at a computer screen, so transforming the 3D experience back into 2D. And for Karolina, the ideal map is the map that you need 3D glasses for to look at it, so that you are actually immersed in a 3D experience.
Ronaldo talks in his ideal map also about 4 dimensions instead of 3D. His 4th component would be climate. He thinks that is a fundamental aspect for a map, since a map is geolocated and therefore the climate is different in every place in the world. Using benefits like lighting, ventilation and vegetation gives designers the possibility to take these factors into the design.
This is Silvanus' map from the Midlands Hotel in Gweru in Zimbabwe. Very nice to see a contribution from Zimbabwe. Silvanus points at one aspect of an ideal map that we didn't talk about before, and that is interior space. Since there are many places in our cities that are public and in fact very large, but they are interior spaces like malls or other public functions, we should actually try to include interior information into our maps. We are nevertheless curious for your ideas about this in general. All of our contributors. Doesn't including interior information also involve a privacy issue or a security issue even? If we have interior information to our most important public buildings. This is perhaps a tricky question in our present time that we would like to hear your opinion on. This is Raphael's contribution of this week. Raphael focuses on the inclusion of a tall building next to a schoolyard, and he says, well, basically this problem cannot be solved unless we swap, in fact, the plots. In the ideal case, of course, his ideal map would have the following characteristics. He says, if there's one thing that we should include in a map, it is information regarding health. A health virtual map. That would be the ideal map, that we can have real-time information on the number of cars, on smog, on noise, on light, etc. And that we can mold our environment according to that information.
The ideal map for Edna is one that shows both spatial dimensions and social dimensions. With social dimensions, she means the community profile, which consists of the density, age, incomes, and employment of the citizens, as well as the behavior. What are the places that people use most? What are unsafe places? And which places do have a high violence reports? If we consider all these information, we as designers can build on this and create a good design for a city.
Let's close today's discussion with this contribution by Muris. Muris says there is no such thing as an ideal map. That's his statement. And he uses the example of a soldier in the field. A soldier who would need a map that is sturdy, a map that is watertight or waterproof, that can even survive a situation where a car would drive over a map, and that would include as little information as possible, I guess, but only that information that you need to make split-second decisions. Whereas map makers would say, or the designer of a map would say, well, I will give you an iPad device, something like this, that can do everything you want. It delivers information about very different kinds of topics you can choose from. It will be automatic, accurate, a lot of different maps available, just at the press of a button. A designer would say, this is a very good map, isn't it? Whereas, of course, the soldier would say, I have no use for a map like that whatsoever. Two different contexts require two totally different kinds of visualization, modeling, analysis, and presentation. And not all maps can fulfill all these requirements at the same time. It's a very basic issue that there will never be an ideal map. Now, please, let's hear your opinion on this, and we hope to see some more commenting on the maps that will be added to our stock in the coming days. Thanks very much for listening, and see you next week.